Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery who I did a review for as one of my first Swedish reviews that I did since moving here. So we're going to go to the town of Mölnlycke and we're going to revisit Poppels Bryggeri, and today I actually have one of their experimental beers. So this is Projekt number 6 basically, and this is the SMÖF 2015, so should be a really nice one. It's an American Pale Ale and it comes in at 5.2%, and it should be, as I've heard this beer is really quite good. It had a rating of 95 on Rate Beer, so that website very rarely leads you wrong, so I'm sure this is going to be a pretty awesome beer, and I've heard very good things about the Poppels experimental range too, so quite interested to try this first one in this that I'm doing in this little series. Should be cool. But anyway, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Poppels, the Facebook page for the channel, please like it, and also my Untappd profile too, and feel free to add me as a friend there. To my Swedish viewers, as always, please let me know some other Swedish beers you'd like me to have a look at. Always interesting to try beers from new places and from new breweries, so don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and feel free to do that in whatever way you wish. But anyway, Poppels, as I've told you many a time before, are based in the town called Mölnlycke, and this is a little bit to the southeast of Gothenburg, or Göteborg as they call it in Sweden. But the brewery is named after that, owned by Johann Poppel, who was actually a well-known German-Swedish brewer, and he spent much of his life in Varberg and Göteborg actually. But he was born between 1605 and 1610 in Lower Saxony in Germany, but he moved to Sweden with his family in the 1620s. Now he met his wife Katarina Krakow between 1624 and 1628, and later founded Gothenburg's first brewery with her officially in 1649, but it's thought that they were actually brewing kind of illegally since 1638. But he's also said to have written down the protocol of the city of Gothenburg in Swedish for the first time, as opposed to German as it was written before. But the brewery apparently remained in the Poppels family for a very long period of time, and the most famous site of the brewery in Gothenburg is Stigbergstorget. So go and visit that area in the city if you do find it. I need to go up to Göteborg and actually have a little explore, because I've not been there yet. I've not been very far outside of Skåne actually. I've only been up to Varberg, so something for me to do in the fairly near future. But the current brewery, the current Poppels Bryggeri, was founded in 2012 in Mölnlycke on a site that was apparently owned by the Poppel family. So the brewery is owned by 15 beer lovers, and it aims to focus in the pairing of beers with food, and the current head brewer is Daniel Granath. And he's actually a bit of an experimenter and a perfectionist, they say, as well. So he brews most of his new beers 4 or 5 times before settling on an exact recipe for them. And apparently he also reads many beer blogs and keeps up to date with many of the kind of new beers and current brewing events and stuff like that. So you do have a brewer here who really is very, very interested in his trade, and somebody who likes to keep up to speed with what's going on, and I think that's pretty much what the idea behind the Projekt series from Poppels is. So really quite a cool brewery actually, and probably one of the ones that you're most likely to find in the Systembolaget here in Sweden. I'm not sure how widely available the Poppels beers are outside of Sweden, but I would guess they probably, if they're not already, they probably will be available fairly soon. And most of the Systembolagets here do have 1 or 2 of the core range beers in their regular series in the shops. The Projekt ones tend to come out in the small partiers, which is when Systembolaget buys in some of the smaller ones just for a short period of time, and this is how I got this one, of course. But that's your brief history of the Poppels Bryggeri. The other beers in their core range, these are the ones you're most likely to find. These include the American Pale Ale, which I've reviewed for you before, Belgisk Wit, Brown Ale, Double IPA, Extra Special Bitter, India Pale Ale, and the Russian Imperial Stout. And as you might have guessed, they've got the Projekt Experimental series and also some seasonal beers as well. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy. I'll just let you have a quick look at the artwork of this one before we go up there. I do have to admit, I actually do quite like the kind of simple labels that they have on these Poppels beers. A nice kind of it's sort of a mix between modern and kind of old style newspapers sort of thing. I do quite like it actually. But this one, it should be a very, very nice beer. There you can see the standard Poppels bottle cap on the beer there, just quite simply done again. It's got a little bit in Swedish on the side there. and it just tells you a bit about how they brew it and things like that. I don't speak Swedish so much yet, so hopefully in the future I can actually have a look at that. But this one comes in at 5.2%. The hops in this one are Amarillo and Mosaic, and the malt base is paleo malt, carapils, wheat malt, and also oat malts as well. So it should be a really quite interesting one. And this one was brewed specially. The SMÖF 2015 was brewed for Söderberke Mikro Öl Festival, so Micro Beer Festival in Söderberke. So yeah, should be a really quite nice beer, and I will try and get the other experimental beers for you from Poppels as they appear. As I say, they do come out from Systembolaget every couple of weeks and things. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening for this beer, and you really can smell some nice juicy fruity characters out of this beer as you open it up. We'll just give the last little bit of sugar, try and get some more of a head on it, and there you are. So it's poured very, very nicely. Actually, I'll just check that you're seeing this properly, but you can really smell some of the nice fruity characteristics off of this beer. There's a lot of hoppy character coming out of this one, but as you can see, it's poured a nice kind of bright orangey amber colour. Quite coppery amber is probably a good way to describe it, and there's a solid finger of a frothy white head on this one. Looks really, really nice. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see that there is some level of transparency to it, but it is kind of hazy as well. No bubbles visible sticking towards the side of the glass actually, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head. But yeah, looks a very, very nice beer. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one. Really interesting fruity characteristic actually. There's quite an interesting tropical fruit note coming off this one. Definitely peaches in there, and passion fruit I want to say. Maybe a little bit of grapefruit too, but I think it's mainly passion fruit and peaches that are coming off this mainly. You can pick up a bit of a juicy orange character too from this one, and I think that's mainly the Mosaic that gives you the orangey characteristics, but the Amarillo is more, if I remember rightly, the Amarillo is more of a tropically hop. You get a bit of earthy character from Mosaic as well, which is quite interesting. But yeah, more of a hop forward aroma from this beer, but definitely big and kind of fruity and juicy this. Definite little bit of grapefruit in there. You can pick up a little bit of the sort of more soury notes if you like, but passion fruit and peaches in there. And there's also some kind of floral aromatic character. Maybe some mangoes or something like that in here too. You can pick up a little bit of that. With this beer, just take a little bit of time and take in all the fruit aromas. It's a big fruity juicy thing, this beer. Underneath that though, you can pick up some of the sweet caramel malts, and there is a bit of the bready character in there as well. Maybe just a little bit of wheatiness coming out too, but the main component of the aroma here is the nice tropical fruits. There is a bit of orangey citrus coming out of it as well, but as I say, it's mainly a kind of juicy tropical fruits. Yeah, really quite nicely done this actually. You can see you can probably hear the guys on their mopeds outside the back of my window. Quite annoying actually. One of the things you have to put up with in Sweden. But yeah, really nice smelling beer this. So if you do get the chance to try this one, definitely give it a smell. I think the tropical fruit aromas in this really are quite nice. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this beer. This is the SMÖF 2015, done for one of the micro beer festivals here in Sweden, and this is from the Poppels Projekt series. Skål! That's really nice actually. First impression is quite an unusual mouthfeel, but very nice tasty beer actually. Yeah, it's interesting because it comes across with a very wet mouthfeel, and there is a lot of stuff going on in the flavour of this beer. The fruity characters in this one, it has all the hoppy character, but at the same time it's just a really wet mouthfeel to this, and that's what's quite interesting about it. So yeah, the main thing I'm noticing about this beer is if you move just behind the very front curve of your tongue, there's a nice oily bubble comes out, and that's where a lot of the fruity characteristics in this beer are coming out. There's a good bit of passion fruit and peaches in there. I was picking up a bit of mango or apricots or something like that in the aroma, but I think it's mainly kind of passion fruit and peaches that are coming out of this beer actually. Yeah, there's not really, there is a little bit of a kind of grapefruity sourness to this beer. Grapefruit, of course, is the most common fruity ester that you find in a lot of beers, but this one is actually has a very distinctive thing, and I think it's from the mosaic hop. The mosaic hop has a really quite distinctive tropical fruit flavour from it, and it always reminds me a little bit of not quite apricots, but a sort of passion fruit and sort of peachy mix. But you can also get a little bit of sort of apricot in there as well. I always think that the mosaic hop gives you just a little bit of apricot. Yeah, that fruity characteristic in this beer is really quite interesting, so just pay attention to that little bit behind the very front of your tongue. And it does, what's interesting as well is about the mouthfeel, the fruity, juicy character spreads all the way around towards the back of your tongue too. So I've never come across a beer that quite has a feature like that to the mouthfeel, so really quite interesting one, this. But you're also getting a good florally aromatic character to this beer, but it's quite smooth actually. There is just a little bit of dry character on the very front kind of curve of the tongue, but as you move further back it smooths out and it becomes a bit more grassy, the hoppy side of this beer actually. And there is a bit of earthiness in the back corners too, and again that's from the mosaic hop. The mosaic hop gives you a nice smooth earthiness, so any beer that you have that has the mosaic hop in it just has that nice little smooth earthiness at the back corners of the palate. So yeah, the hoppy characters in this beer are really quite nice, quite smooth, but there is a little bit of a florally aromatic character. But the unusual thing about it, like I say, is that it is quite smooth, but the fruity juicy character for me is the highlight of this beer. In the middle of the palate you've got quite a smooth, slightly bready characteristic there. You can really pick up the paleo malt coming out of this beer, I think, and there's a bit of caramel sweetness on top of that. At the same time, there is a little bit of a sort of cereally element, and when you've got wheat in the beer, the wheat will give the sort of bready flavour a bit more body, but the oaty characteristics are coming out in this beer too, and it's not quite dry, but there is just that little slight bit of oaty flavour, oaty slightly spicy character in the middle of your palate there. It gives, the oaty characters give it just a little bit of dryness in the malt base, but it works really well. The malt base in this blends together, particularly the caramel sweetness in it. Not a toasted caramel at all, it is quite a sweet caramel, but that blends together quite well with these juicy fruit characters, the tropical fruits that I was telling you about. The orange character that you pick up in the nose on this one is quite subdued. I want to say that it's more of a tropical fruit flavour, this one. Like I was saying, more passion fruit, peaches, maybe a little bit of apricot and maybe lychees or something like that. It's a really interesting and quite unusual fruit character in this beer, like I've said a couple of times. But I can see why it has such a good rating on Rate Beer. Very, very nicely done. And I should say as well, with the mouthfeel, as you progress through this beer, it does become a little bit more dry, and more of the floral and aromatic characters come out of this beer a little bit. But in terms of the mouthfeel, it's mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth. At the start it comes in with just a little bit of an attack, and that helps bring out some of the drier aspects of the hoppy character in the beer. Mainly an oily mouthfeel, this quite juicy as well from the fruit, like I said, but there is a bit of hoppy dryness that builds in the flavour too. And yeah, it's got a nice malty sweetness underneath it as well, with just a little bit of dryness from those oaty flavours. But overall, this is a really, really quite nice beer, so I would recommend that you have a go at it if you do find it. I'm not sure how likely you are to find this beer outside of Sweden, or even by the time this video publishes. I'm not sure if it will be that easy to find, but do give it a go if you get the chance. A very, very nice one, and I look forward to trying more from the Projekt series from Poppels. A really good brewery, and their core range of beers are really highly rated, but the Projekt ones, I'm told, are where the magic kind of really happens with this brewery. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, please let me know in the comments section below if you do happen to have tried this beer before. It's one of the small partier ones, which is from Systembolaget. Pick it up if you do manage to find it. Really nice, and I would recommend it. And this one is particularly good for those of you who enjoy an IPA with a kind of unusual fruit character to it. The fruity characteristics in this beer are definitely the highlight. But I thank you for watching my beer videos. As always, with the Swedish viewers, please let me know some other Swedish beers you'd like me to have a look at. I hope you're enjoying this series of Swedish beers I'm doing for you. But as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know if you've tried the beer. Always interesting to hear from you guys. I thank you once again for watching, and I'll catch you soon with my next beer review. Slàinte just now.